Tonight, NBC5 investigates how Texas paper tags have become a felon's best friend. Our team has uncovered cases where fraudulent temporary plates, often sold illegally by small car dealers, ended up on vehicles used in serious crimes. Here's senior investigative reporter Scott Friedman.
First, we exposed how crooks are selling fraudulent Texas tags for profit. Now we're going to show you how people are using those tags to commit violent crimes, steal, smuggle, and hide from police. We wondered how often it's happening. You may not believe what we heard when we asked police officers and federal agents.
We're going on the 121, northbound.
From a wild police chase with a drive-by shooting suspect,
He is blocked there.
to a major credit card theft investigation,
Who's this?
to drug smuggling cases, and even murder.
No other family should have to go through this.
One thing connects them all: Texas paper tags. Many sold fraudulently, police say, by small car dealers cashing in on a black market that helps bad guys get away.
It basically becomes a ghost car.
They give people anonymity. It is a cloak, if you will, for the vehicle.
NBC5 Investigates reached out to law enforcement agencies across the region to ask how often they see those tags used to conceal other crimes. Many told us it's a constant problem.
All day, every day.
Listen to what the DEA told us about how often federal drug enforcement agents see smugglers with paper tags on cars used to transport drugs in the DFW area.
At least 80% of the investigations that we're conducting at some point have involved surveillance of vehicles or stops of drug-laden vehicles that have temp tags.
One example, they say, these vehicles used by a major fentanyl smuggling ring in Fort Worth.
Every single vehicle that this particular organization was using to move their drugs from point A to point B were temp tags.
As NBC5 Investigates first reported, a lack of thorough vetting at the Texas DMV has allowed crooks, some even using stolen identities, to obtain car dealer licenses and then gain access to the state's tag system. Once inside, they can create tags registered to false names and addresses, print those tags, and sell them for profit. When police stop cars with fraudulent tags, the information in the computer can be a dead end.
A paper tag now has become that hood that the bad guys put on their cars.
When Carrollton police chased this driver suspected of firing shots into a house in October, they feared if the car got away, they might not find it because the car had a paper tag and so many are fraudulent. DMV records we obtained showed the tag on that car was created by a dealer NBC5 Investigates exposed in November, Freeman Auto. We showed how Travis County investigators believe Freeman is a shell company created to illegally sell tags.
I've been to Freeman. I stood in front of it. It's not there.
The car that ran from Carrollton police was not allowed to have a paper tag from Freeman or any car dealer. State records show the car had not been inspected since 2019. Dealers can only legally issue paper tags for cars that had a state inspection in the last 180 days.
Sure, we've got the driver still in the vehicle. Felony stop has taken place.
These tags coming out of one or two specific dealerships that you've identified are masking and basically enabling these bad guys to commit these crimes.
Freeman Auto has not responded to numerous attempts to reach them. The DMV eventually shut Freeman down for suspected fraud. In Arlington, police say they recently found a Freeman tag used to disguise this stolen truck so it could be resold to an unsuspecting buyer.
And that vehicle had all the identification numbers switched on it, and it had a paper tag that matched those false identification numbers.
After a recent hit-and-run crash, Arlington police began searching for the car and found 5 different cars driving around with copies of the same fraudulent tag.
Anytime I see a paper tag, unless it's a brand spanking new car, I'm running with the assumption that it's probably illegitimate.
This problem has risen to a level where it requires significant action and attention.
Lake Worth Police Chief J.T. Manashagian estimates about half the tags his officers see are fraudulent. Some, like this one, blatantly false.
I have a question about the tag. Why does it say this is an Audi when you're driving a Lexus?
Officers say they found the driver of this car had more than 100 stolen debit cards.
These even got PIN numbers on them. Oh my God. This is crazy.
Lake Worth police say the man admitted to being part of an international group that applied for cards in other people's names.
Who's Lisa?
Then swiped them from the victims' mailboxes when they arrived. Investigators suspect the man used the fraudulent tag in an attempt to avoid being caught if someone spotted him stealing mail.
I would beg and plead with our lawmakers to take action now to correct this problem.
Manashagian says DFW needs a tag fraud task force. Dallas used to have one. But as we've reported, Governor Abbott defunded those units statewide in 2017 when he vetoed a clean air bill that contained funding for those teams in major cities. Since then, police tell us they've seen more crimes involving bogus tags.
Any funding that we could get to get somebody to focus intentional efforts on this problem would be paramount for us.
And it's not just police asking for help.
Nobody's going to buy a plate to make a ghost car to do something right.
Jay Banks is speaking on behalf of a friend who can't speak for himself. Everett Briscoe, an off-duty police officer from New Orleans, was on a restaurant patio in Houston in June when police say two men looking for watches and jewelry tried to rob him. They allegedly shot Briscoe, killing him, then fled in a car with paper tags.
This cancer of senseless violence has to stop.
Briscoe's death devastated friends in New Orleans, including Banks, a city councilman who knew Briscoe as a fellow member of a legendary Mardi Gras parade crew.
No other family needs to suffer the tragedy that the Briscoe family suffered.
Houston police declined to provide details on the tag involved in the shooting, citing the ongoing investigation. Banks believes Texas needs to give police more money to make sure paper tags cannot be used to cover any crime.
This is not just a white-collar, victimless crime.
We've asked to interview Governor Abbott multiple times about this, but our requests have been declined. The governor's staff referred us back to a statement they sent us previously. It says the governor's worked with the legislature to implement new rules that allow the DMV to shut down fraudulent dealers faster. The statement goes on to say we continue working with the DMV and the legislature to review other potential legislative changes needed and build on this progress.
Scott, what about the DMV? What are they doing to prevent people from creating these fraudulent tags?
Yeah, since we exposed the scale of the fraud, the DMV started developing a plan for tougher background checks on car dealers. And in recent weeks, they've started pulling the plug more quickly on fraudulent dealers suspected of selling tags. But police tell us they already see the bad guys adapting, Brian, and finding ways to continue printing tags for profit, which is why police say they need more funding to deal with this problem.
The top executive at the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles is stepping down, all in the fallout from the state's fraudulent paper tag crisis exposed in an NBC5 investigation.
Over the last 3 months, our team has revealed how lax security at the DMV allowed criminals to get car dealer licenses, access the DMV system, and illegally sell temporary tags for profit.
Now, a major shakeup inside the agency. Senior investigative reporter Scott Freeman has the breaking details tonight.
DMV Executive Director Whitney Brewster faced mounting questions following our reports revealing the huge scale of the problem. Hundreds of thousands of fraudulent tags on Texas cars. In a resignation letter obtained by NBC5 Investigates, Brewster says she's proud of the work her agency did to try to stop the fraud. But by leaving, she says, the deck is now clear for new leadership.
There is a proliferation of temporary tags.
A massive shakeup tonight. Whitney Brewster, who led the Texas DMV for almost a decade, is out, submitting her resignation to the board that oversees the agency. One board member telling me tonight the DMV needs new leadership to tackle the paper tag debacle.
Our number one priority and what we're valuing is public safety. And I think that we have an opportunity now to really lead the charge and make some of the changes that are necessary to ensure that we can keep our Texans safe.
One law enforcement agency now estimates more than 1.2 million fraudulent paper tags were sold last year. Tags created by people with car dealer licenses who could access the state system and use it to make black market profits. Just 11 days ago, I asked Brewster why her agency did not move faster to stop the crooks.
How can people trust that you're looking out for Texas when your department allowed it to get to that point before stepping in with some of these tougher measures?
So the agency is required to follow the law.
Brewster said the DMV did not have authority from the legislature to quickly shut down dealers suspected of fraud until new legislation was passed last year. An NBC5 investigation showed how those dealers were able to print massive numbers of tags. Some with no storefront issued more tags than large franchise dealers. A clear sign, police said, that those small dealers were selling tags, not cars. And we discovered the DMV does not fingerprint dealers to thoroughly vet them before giving them access to the tag system. When we questioned Brewster in December, she said she was moving fast to address the fraud.
This is absolutely an emergency. We're looking at every possible solution we can to expedite the process.
But for some in law enforcement, it wasn't fast enough.
Until the spotlight was on, then, okay, now it's an emergency.
Officers at the top unit that investigates tag fraud hope a new DMV boss will do more to help them catch the bad guys.
And we were fighting a fight with one hand tied behind our back. Hopefully that will change.
DMV board member Manny Ramirez also heads Fort Worth's police union.
Because there are some truly bad actors that are out there that have been taking advantage of this temp tag system for far too long.
In a resignation message the DMV released tonight, Brewster said, unfortunately, challenges and difficulties still face the state and our organization. Often the hardest thing to do as a public servant leader is to step back and accept that you've done everything you can and that it might be time to allow new leadership to take the reins. The DMV's deputy executive director will take over while the board searches for a permanent replacement. The board meets later this week to start talking about what's next.